Hi, did you know that your body holds on to a lot of past trauma, stress, anxiety? What if I told you that there was a better way to deal with it than just talking about it? I'm Anusha, a somatic therapist, a breathwork instructor, as well as a love, sex, and relationship coach. And I'm here to tell you that in the world that we live in today, stress, anxiety, PTSD, burnout has become such a norm, which is quite unfortunate. So, today we're going to explore into the world of somatic experiencing, a means and a beautiful body based approach, a holistic healing tool that helps us not only transcend the thought forms in our mind but also access and anchor into the deep wisdom within our body. If you look at most traditional approaches of therapy, it's quite isolated in nature. Let's take psychotherapy, for example, or psychiatry, or physiotherapy, or neurosciences. All of these are so isolated that they look at the body also in such an isolated way. Like the mind is separate from the body, is separate from the spirit. So for spirit, we have the spiritual sciences. So because everything is so isolated, we also tend to think that our problems are isolated. But unfortunately, that's not the case. This body is a whole, it's an entire being in itself, and there is so much communication happening between the body, mind, and spirit. So, what is somatic therapy? So many people ask me, what is somatic therapy? We've never heard of it before. So, I'm here to tell you that somatic therapy is an integrative tool, a holistic tool that acknowledges the body and mind and spirit. It bridges the connection between the body, mind, and spirit and sees it as a whole, that trauma and stress is not only held in the mind but also can manifest within the body. And that in turn can reduce the aliveness that you feel in your spirit. Most often, what we tend to notice is that those who hold on to past pain and trauma tend to store it in their body over a prolonged period of time, which then starts to manifest itself physically as either chronic pain or as inflammation or just stress. Sometimes it's also seen as certain ailments in the body, like tensions that don't go away, aches and that have no medical backing behind, and more often than not because the body is holding on to something that has not been processed yet. So unprocessed emotions, unprocessed adverse childhood experiences, unprocessed trauma and stress can over a period of time can lead for these things to manifest in your being. So today we're going to deep dive into what somatic experience is, what are its roots, where does it come from, who founded it, what are the principles behind it, and if this is your approach, if this approach is meant for you, if this is something that you need to look into and bring more curiosity to. Another common question that I get asked often is, who started this somatic therapy? Where does it come from? Where does it originate, right? Just like the approach of somatic therapy is so holistic in nature that it considers the body, mind, and spirit, similarly, the pioneers of this field also came from multiple schools of science, from body work, from body movement therapists to neuroscientists through to psychologists. So it has had the contributions of all of these people who've poured into this new cutting edge field called somatic therapy. So if we have to date back to the origin stories, Lowen, who spoke about the bioenergetics. He spoke about how the body, when in movement, communicates differently with the mind. Today's most recognized somatic experiencing was founded by Peter Levine, who said that somatic experiencing is the body awareness, coming to your body and noticing within your body where you are holding on to stress and anxiety and trauma, and helping the body release that through breathwork, movement, as well as sounding. Another major contribution to the field has also come from Bessel van der Kolk, whose book The Body Keeps Score also deep dives into how trauma release in PTSD patients happens actually by acknowledging everything that is held in the body. Last but not the least, one of the most significant contributions to the field of somatic experience comes from Pat Ogden, and he speaks about sensory motor psychotherapy, which is use of the body's awareness and mindfulness with breath and movement to help release trauma from the body. So these are the origin stories. As you can see, there is no one origin stories, but it has been a pot of soup of many pioneers in their field coming and pouring into this, which also makes sense of why this is such a holistic approach to healing. So let's get curious on what principles do somatic therapy actually revolve around. One of the key principles that somatic therapy revolves around is that the body holds emotions. So we know for a fact that when we are going through any kind of emotional trauma, we tend to tense up even within our own bodies. Like, you will notice that our body reacts in a specific way to stress. Our body reacts in a specific way to, let's say, a physical trauma. Our body reacts in a specific way when the environment is chaotic, and all of this is stored as emotional imprints in the body as well as muscle memory. So let's say that you are somebody who traverses through terrible traffic every single day, and you have to be aware of your environment constantly, where somebody could come bang into you, somebody could cross the road, there could be a dog on the road, there could be a cow on the road, and you're every day reinforcing the tension in your body. Over a period of time, it becomes muscle memory that your entire body is just tense. It can never relax, or it can never come to a standstill. It can never come to rest. So this approach also acknowledges that the body holds a certain type of memory. Similarly, with people who've been through domestic violence, where they are constantly hit or when they are constantly abused, there's a certain reflex reaction that becomes part of the body's response, that it becomes muscle memory, that they can almost sense it before it comes to them, which is why there are certain muscles in the body which are more tense than otherwise. This is all linked to the fascia. So one of the key principles of somatic therapy is working with these muscle memories and emotional imprints which are in the body, and help the body kind of relax and let it go. So let's look at the second principle. The second most important principle that somatic therapy revolves around is that there is a deep connection between the body and the mind. And this connection between the body and the mind is what leads to healing in the first place. If you look at most traditional approaches, like I mentioned before, everything is very isolated. So the body is seen as a separate entity which is functioning on its own, and the mind is seen as a completely different entity which is functioning on its own. But we are an entire being. Our body doesn't see the difference between mind and the body. Everything is working as one unit. So bridging the gap between the mind and the body is one of the most important factors of somatic therapy that somatic therapy takes into consideration in the first place. Another major thing that somatic therapy focuses on is nervous system regulation. Most of us know that when we're in environments that are extremely anxious and stressful, we can tend to go into a flight response or a fight response or a freeze response, in some cases a fawning response. So somatic therapy basically focuses on the autonomous nervous system and make sure that we bring the autonomous nervous system from a fight and flight to rest and digest. So we believe in integrating the body into a restful state where you can digest the information that's given to you, digest and process the emotions that are coming up for you, and finally go into a state of rest and safety within the nervous system. So how do we then go through rest and digest? Like, how do we get to that point? We get to that point by actually processing these emotions in the body. So, what do I mean by processing the emotions? It seems like such a vague terminology, right? Processing the emotions. How do I do that? That happens only through the body, by bringing more awareness to the body, awareness to the felt senses in the body. Like going into my body and seeing, where do I hold tension right now? Is it in my knees? Is it in my back? What is my back trying to communicate to me in this moment? Is it trying to tell me something? Is it holding on to something? Do I need to release that through me? And by bringing in awareness to your felt senses in your body and moving it through specific forms of breath work and movement, we're able to integrate and process these emotions that have been unprocessed and just have piled on over a period of time because you don't have the tools to process it. The next major thing that somatic therapy focuses on is resourcing in nervous system safety. Like, this is the front and center of somatic therapy. We're trying to build resilience in your body. And how do we build resilience in our bodies? What do we mean by resilience? That no matter what adversity comes my way, I have the physical and the mental strength to handle it, to trust that this is just a blip in the rest of my life, that I have all the tools at my disposal to help me move through this particular adversity or challenge, which we see is so lacking in today's day and age. We've become fragile human beings who crumble at the sight of challenges. We want life to be just a bed of roses, which is almost quite unrealistic, right? And there's also so much thrown our way that it can sometimes be really overwhelming. So, somatic therapy focuses on building this muscle power within us, this mind power within us, to bring in more nervous system safety. And we believe that a system that feels safe is a system that is ready to heal. So, healing cannot happen in an unsafe environment. So, any form of physical, emotional healing cannot happen when your body is threatened. So, we're trying to resource the body in safety before it can even begin healing. So that's a beauty of somatic work and somatic experiencing, and these are some key principles on which every session is designed. How old is somatic therapy? Like, many people think, okay, is this like some new age fad that, somatic therapy, oh, it's cool, now is the trending word and things like that. No, although somatic therapy as such was framed about 60 to 70 years ago, it's as old as 60 to 70 years old, but it actually dates back to some beautiful indigenous practices from ancient cultures of the world. It takes from all of these practices, bridges it with science and psychology and body work, and then presents itself as a revolutionary method of healing. So what are some of the ancient cultures that somatic therapy has borrowed from, has taken from, has been inspired from? We have the tantric traditions from India, we have the Taoist traditions from China, like the Qigong practices, we have the Egyptian alchemical practices, we have the European Celtic Druid traditions of rituals, which come into it while bridging in science of psychology, as well as body movement, as well as breathwork sciences which come from our yogic philosophies, and putting them together and recognizing that each of them have their own gifts, and when we club all of these gifts together, we have a powerful holistic healing tool. So these are the origin roots. Although somatic therapy as such is a new term, the principles of somatic therapy and the roots of somatic therapy are actually thousands of years old. So if you want to anchor in something that is the ancient future, then somatic therapy is your jam. Now that we've explored into what somatic therapy is, who founded it, how old it is, and all of that, the more important question to ask is, how is this relevant for you? Like, who can seek somatic therapy? Is this the right therapeutic approach for me? Is this something that will work for me? So the question here is, who is somatic therapy for? Somatic therapy is for anybody who's experiencing stress, anxiety, burnout. If you feel like you've just been at life again and again and again and again, Somatic therapy is here to streamline your life and through a desire-based model to help you get to the kind of life and thriving that you want to get to. It's also for people who've been through deep triggering traumas, deep childhood wounding, as well as PTSD, to help them work through these triggers which may have sort of settled in the body, to help them process these emotions and get it out. It's also for somebody who is going through chronic pain and tension for a prolonged period of time, and nothing seems to be working as pain medication for you, and the source of pain is unknown, the treatment ahead is unknown. So when you have issues like this, then somatic therapy is something that you can explore into. Similarly, for inflammatory disorders, there are some inflammatory disorders which have their deep roots within like emotions which are unprocessed, which can be held within the body. Another reason why you could seek somatic therapy is if you're having difficulties in regulating your emotions. So if you feel like you're flying off into grief and rage quite often and there's no explanation to it, then somatic therapy is for you. Somatic therapy is also for somebody who is wanting and seeking deeper intimacy and a depth within their relationships in their life. That could be friendships, romantic relationships, relationships with their parents, and so on. It's also for somebody who wants to deep dive into spiritual practices of embodiment and nervous system regulation. So if you feel like you're constantly anxious and chaotic, like you keep penduluming between feeling great one day and horrible the other day, then somatic therapy is a great way to reset your nervous system and come back into safety. Also, it's great if you are here because you're just stuck in talk therapy. Maybe you've been in therapy for quite a while now and you've just been going around in loops, and it has reached its capping limit, right? So even for somebody for whom their talk therapy has reached a capping limit, somatic therapy is the next stage. It takes you a step beyond. And lastly, somatic therapy is for anybody who is curious to see, what is this approach all about? Like, I want to go deeper, and I think that there's something there that I haven't processed, and I'm curious and I want to explore life. I want to explore life from a point of thriving and not just merely surviving. Like, I don't want to be stuck in these stress responses of fight, flight, and freeze, but I want to be out there alive in my pleasure, in my joy, in my radiance, to be witnessed for all of this and to be celebrated, to feel that celebration in your body and your being while accessing deep wisdom in your body. It's also great, like I said, for accessing wisdom within the body. So many of us who've been through stresses and tensions and traumas in our life can very easily kind of dissociate from the body, which disconnects us from our body and our intuition. So it's also a fantastic tool to reconnect back to that deep sense of wisdom and intuition that we innately hold. So, as I said, somatic therapy is not a miracle fixing machine. It's simply putting you in a state of nervous system rest and safety that allows your body to do what it's innately meant to do, which is heal and access its own magic. So it is magic, but it's not magic I'm creating. It's the magic that each one of you hold within your body. And we're just using tools that will help you access the magic that already exists within you. I'm also leaving towards the end of this video a list of research findings on somatic therapy. Those of you who are interested in deep diving into it, like if you're a science nerd like me, then I'm going to leave the links to the research papers as well. Do take a look at it, and if you are curious and if you want to know more and if you want to begin your journey of somatic therapy and you're wondering where to begin, reach out to me on Instagram. I'm gonna link my handle down below as well, and we can have a conversation on how to take that forward. So this is me. That's all for this week, and I will see you next week with something more interesting. Until then, make sure to subscribe to this channel. It's going to be new. There's going to be more information that's going to be dropping. Hit the bell icon to make sure that you don't forget any of the notifications that come, and like the video, because your likes will help spread it more, and share it with your friends. If you think that this could be something that could be of use to them, please help me by getting the word out there by sharing this video with people who you think it'll be resourceful to. So that's it from me. Shri Matre Namaha.